let's see, get that. Audio is working. Yes, working. Are things showing? I do not know. I should probably check. Yes, things are showing. Alright. So, this would be the second political stream I have attempted. Yeah, we'll go with attempted. As said before, if you're looking for, like, high detail, really in the weeds kind of expertise, college educated, all that, you know, fancy bullshit, look elsewhere. You will not find it here. But what I do know is what people were doing when the skeptosphere was getting basically impacted by all of this right-wing propaganda insanity. So what I've decided to do is just comb through and see exactly at what points they turn. And continuing on from last time, I'm going to be checking out some PragerU and some Rubin Report. Now, this is Rubin still with the Young Turks, so probably not as bad as current day Rube, but PragerU's also always been kind of nuts. Although last time, one of the episodes turned out to be just flat-out relationship advice, which was weird, to say the least. I don't know, I just never considered relationship advice to be on the table there. But we're going to start with PragerU. Is evil rational? Which I'm not sure if that is a question that works, period. Let alone in other people's concepts of it. It's very odd to me, that question. I don't know how it would be illogical, because evil is a judgment in itself, and I guess you can judge somebody whether they're rational or not, but basically, to me, like, the only possible answer that this could get if evil isn't rational is evil is insane. Evil is irrational. So confused I am. Very confused. Hopefully, I doubt it, but hopefully this could illuminate me, at least slightly. Let's try and turn the quality up on that, shall we? Department Life
Ever
Study?
since the 18th century.
Wait. I have to look this up. Life studies? Okay, a life studies degree. A life experience degree? What? Sorry, that just caught my eye. I'd never really thought about that for more than 3 seconds. Uh-huh. Okay, actually, here's a question. What is Dennis Prager's education? Like, he has to have some, right? Possibly. I mean, I don't know what field, though. Brooklyn College. So not exactly an Ivy League. Is Brooklyn in the Ivy League? I probably shouldn't be saying this because I don't fucking know. Shit, when people were at college, I was figuring out how many linings I could down in one night. What the fuck would I know about that? Let's see. Brooklyn College, just like, what is your, like, graduation rate 57, acceptance 45. Okay. Okay, what is your credentials, sir? Alma mater. Uh-huh. Okay. Modern Orthodoxy. Acceptance of a doctrine. Political views. Yeah. Okay, where is... Okay, those are your published works. What do you have a degree in? Uh-huh. Middle Eastern Studies. Okay. Interesting. I'm not sure if that's enough to give you the purview on everything, but especially American stuff.
Century and the dawning of the so-called Age of Reason. Most of the best educated people in the world have been absolutely certain that reason alone will lead us to goodness and a good world.
Okay. When did the Age of Reason start? I mean, other than the book. But the Age of Reason is a book by Thomas Paine. But before then, I would imagine that Immanuel Kant, A Critique of Pure Reason, 1781. 1794. We had critiqued it before the age he is speaking of, and in the critique, it specifically refers to religiosity. That is one of the main tenets. So I have I have no clue what he's talking about.
We don't need a God. We don't need religion. All we need is reason. Evil, we have been told for almost 3 centuries, doesn't make sense. It's irrational. That's why you'll often hear murderous dictators referred to as madmen and their evil regimes described as...
You don't hear the higher-ups described as madmen. Generally, the lower class are described that way, but not the people at the top. Monsters, but madmen are... That's an insult reserved for a different kettle of fish there. And I can see he's finally started with the bizarre... Yes, Stalin and Hitler there. He started with the imagery already.
As products of madmen. In other words, the very opposite of rational men. Stalin was irrational. Pol Pot was a madman. Mao's genocidal cultural revolution, in which he directed the killing of 50 to 75 million Chinese, in peacetime no less, is routinely called madness, and the Iranian regime's calls for the annihilation of Israel are routinely dismissed as, you guessed it, irrational.
Yes. That is generally, colloquially, how people describe things. I don't know what this has to do with what actual evil is and actual rationality. But right here is where the insidiousness is. Okay. So, in the skeptosphere at the time, the idea of being able to reason your way out of things or into things, or that you could help somebody through reason, was paramount. You had discussions with people you disagreed with so you could reason with them. This would be perfect bait for somebody who feels like they don't quite fit and that they want, like, first you're appealing to the skeptosphere with the notion of evil on its face. Mind you, he's describing human evil, not religious evil, although he mentioned religion, but it's a little muddled in there. But that the bad people must be crazy. So now what I'm betting he's going to do is he's going to flip it so it'll make you see it in a whole new light, when in fact it's exactly the same light you saw it in before. You just now implicitly trust him.
Meanwhile, good and moral things are always associated with being reasonable. But this association of reason with good is wishful thinking. Of course, reason might argue for doing good, but it might just as well argue for doing bad. Take a non-murderous example. Is it right?
Wait. But let me catch that again.
Good is wishful thinking. Of course, reason might argue for doing.
Reason doesn't argue for things. People do. People using reason argue, like the act of using reason. Oh God, what I don't even. Like, you're not talking about like whether your reason goes one way or the other. You're talking about an internal debate. It doesn't always go to good or bad because your mind doesn't have that preconceived every single fucking time, you know? Okay. Like, that's just maddening. That's what that is. Interesting. I should probably okay. I did not notice that before. But that's just bizarre to me.
Good, but it might just as well argue for doing bad. Take a non-murderous example. Is it right or wrong for a student to cheat on a test? It's wrong, of course. But now answer this. Is it rational or irrational to cheat on a test? The answer is not quite as obvious, is it? After all, if you can get away with it, and it might mean the difference between getting into a great school or getting a great job, cheating on a test may well be reasonable.
So, but that's predicated on you being successful. So there's still the internal debate and struggle in there. See what I mean about the flip? Where now it's all about, oh, well, reason can be used to do bad things too. I thought all of you skeptics were all about reason. And here's how it can hurt you. It's like, no. Also, pretty fucking innocuous. Cheating on a goddamn test.
The same logic applies to participating in a shady but lucrative business deal.
Oh, right there. That's the pot calling kettle black there, Mr. Dennis Prager.
Or engaging in a marital infidelity. If you know you can get away with it, or simply judge that the benefits of doing something illegal or immoral outweigh the risk of being caught, why not do it?
Because there's more than likely consequences down the road, and even if they, I don't know, don't happen, I guess it really depends on what we're talking about here. Like, you're talking as though consequences don't exist. You're trying to seal up your argument in a vacuum, and that doesn't work. And if it outweighs the risk of being caught, what's the kind of situation are you in? That, like, I mean, that's definitely somebody who's gotten into dire straits. Like, what if you cheat on the last test of the year just so you can pass your grade and move on to the next grade? Is that different than a person who cheats on it early, even though they are capable of doing the work? Like there's no nuance in what he is saying, which is like, you know, it's crack for people that want things to be all reason and easier, and I don't know, I just can't stand the loss of nuance. It's just so easy to turn to propaganda.
Or answer this. Was it rational or irrational for a non-Jew in Nazi-occupied Europe during World War II to risk his or her life to hide a Jew? We all know.
I don't think rationality factors in there. Strength of character and personal belief factor in that far, and of course he used Nazis as the ultimate evil. Like that, couldn't see that coming. But whether or not they're compos mentis, it's not really a part of this. So, and now here's the part where he tries to make you feel good, going, I would do that, I would hide them. And you're like, well, you were never in that situation. You have no idea what you would have done. But Dennis says you would have, because of the moral imperative, the greatness.
Know that this was moral greatness of the highest order. But was it rational? Not really. You can't get much more rational than self-preservation.
You can easy, like, self-preservation in service of the whole, is also rational. What?
Moreover, in all the studies I have read of non-Jewish rescuers of Jews during the Holocaust, and I have read many, I have never read of any rescuers who said that they did what they did because it was the reasonable or rational thing to do. Not
People don't talk that way. Okay. See, false dichotomy right there. Well, it obviously has. I obviously have to be correct because nobody said these specific things. No, they just didn't talk like a fucking weirdo.
Not one. Reason leads to good only when you want it to, just as it leads to bad when you want it to.
I have a man. His name was Oppenheimer. I think you may have heard of him. Although, then again, you might consider the atomic bomb a good thing. Like, that is that's the secret. That's the law of attraction garbage. Like, this is the kind of thing where he coded all of the earlier stuff in these questions that make you go, ooh, what is this gonna be? And then he hits you with some sort of fucking the secret level thing, and and people just accepted it in.
2. Reason is just a tool. It is no more intrinsically moral than a knife. A knife can be used to murder or to torture people, but in the hands of a surgeon, it can be used to save lives. If you want to preserve liberty, then it is rational to fight and risk your life on its behalf.
Not necessarily rational. I mean, especially if we're talking that war where literally they're running out of people, so Washington would Shanghai immigrants into it, and then there's also the fucking whole, there's the whole, sign up drunks that were unconscious, and just, it was like there was way more going on with the Revolutionary Army than just that.
And if you want to maintain a fascist or a communist or an Islamist dictatorship, then it's equally rational to risk your life on its behalf.
Again, all of these have very different recruitment ways. In fact, they were all incredibly different. And the rationality is definitely going to depend on the backgrounds of these people.
And talking about liberty, it isn't reason that makes people value liberty. Many rational people value security, or order, or territory, or theocracy.
You value theocracy. And him putting theocracy in this category is him baiting people.
Or many other things, much more than they value liberty.
Like liberty as a concept or personal liberty? You need a couple more descriptors there.
Reason can lead people to all kinds of conclusions. For example, asked if he would kill a disabled baby, a distinguished professor of philosophy at Princeton University responded, quote, "Yes, if that was in the best interests of the baby and of the family as a whole," unquote. Can you offer a purely rational reason why the professor is wrong?
No. No, I cannot. Like, I'm gonna... Like, okay, I'm gonna bring this up as this is a trigger warning for gross, because gross. But this is the kind of thing that I don't think people really like actually think about, even though they should, if the baby would be happy and healthy and all of that, I don't know, happy horse shit. You know? Like, this is like what I'm about to show you is some goddamn nightmare fuel. But it's real, it's educational. This is a human being, and you should treat it as such. But this is an image of a condition one may have. So I am also, wait, give me a sec, I want to look up the life like what's the okay. Now 10 months to 25 years is the max here. And this is not pretty. Like I said, warning you ahead of time. So this is a condition. I do not know if I can pronounce it correctly. Known as Harlequin type Ichthyosis. People can survive up to 10 months and 25 years. So, I can say as a doctor, if I saw this developing, I would probably say, no, this is bad. You should not do this. It will put you and your baby's health at risk. Well, if your baby's health is already diminished, 25 is the oldest they will ever get, and they will be alive in pretty much constant agony. And that's the kind of thing that a lot of things won't show you or tell you. And I'm doing this preemptively because I'm betting he's about to tell me that it's morally wrong.
The only reason I can offer is a belief that all human beings are created in God's image and are therefore infinitely precious. But the preciousness of all human life is a belief, not an assertion of reason. The Greeks, the founders of Western reason thought it quite reasonable to leave sickly babies to die of exposure. The baby would just be a burden on the parents and the state. It was faith-based Jerusalem, the other parent of Western civilization, not reason-based Athens, that taught the world to keep sickly babies alive.
What? The fuck are you talking about? Like, like, I don't know, like, what they're talking about, because it's like, it is innate that children are taken care of by their parents to begin with. That is an instinct. Also, not a belief that governs this. You do not need a belief to govern that. You do not need a reason to govern that if you have that instinct. If you do not have that instinct, fine. But even then, it's like where the root of that comes from has zero to do, absolutely nothing to do with the Abrahamic religions whatsoever. That's like saying every non-Abrahamic religion, like, purposely kills their children or some shit.
So the next time you read of some terrible crime or some terrible regime, please don't dismiss it as irrational or mad. Call it for what it is: evil. I'm Dennis Prager.
I don't know. Okay, I might take a screenshot of that as I'm Dennis Prager and it just says evil, because that sounds about right to me. So, you know. Alright. Now, let's hear them argue against rent control. Joy!
There's no hot-button issue hotter than rent control. Even the most courageous politician quakes at the idea of opposing it. For starters, no.
Oh boy, it's gotten better. It's got fun. We're finally made it. We've made it to the fucking whole fucking thing. Ugh. Sorry, I'm having like weird yawn, burp, hiccups. We finally made it to the classic style. Let's see how this goes.
No one likes landlords. Second, those who benefit from rent control, and there are a lot of them, vote. And it has huge emotional appeal. Imagine the 6 o'clock news story. A reporter interviews a senior citizen, describing how she'll have to vacate her small apartment, her home for 25 years, if her rent control isn't maintained. What politician wants to go up against that? These are just a few of the reasons why. Once a city adopts rent control, it's almost impossible to dislodge it. But does rent control work? Does it lower or raise housing costs? And does it increase the building of more affordable housing? It might surprise you to know that nearly all economists, on the right and the left, from the late Milton Friedman to Paul Krugman, agree that the answer is no. In a survey of 464 economists, in the May 1992 issue of American Economic Review, 93% said that a ceiling on rents reduces the quantity and quality of housing available. Why the unanimity? Because it's an accepted economic principle that government-imposed price controls, and that's what rent control is, always lead to price distortions, in this case rents. This applies everywhere, but let's focus on New York City, the place where I have concentrated my research. New York has...
Okay, yeah, New York City, that's definitely a bit of a bias source with rent control. Like, to me, it's in a way, this feels like a reverse minimum wage argument. Where, sure, you could get rid of rent control if things never got so out of hand that it was necessary to keep people in somewhat equal, like forms of living, I suppose. Like within an area, it's very, very bizarre. Like the thing is, they're talking about expansion when there are people already living there. Expansion, like this is a perfect way to trick people, because they're like, both the right and the left say it's bad. Well, no, they're saying it's bad for this thing in particular, not for, people controlling their own lives.
As the biggest rental market in the country. Of the city's 8.2 million residents, 5.5 million rent. And these 5.5 million renters live in about 2.2 million apartments or rented houses. Every year, a city board votes on how much owners of rent-regulated apartments will be able to charge their tenants for the following year's 1-year or 2-year leases. The board members base their decisions not on supply and demand, but on an estimate of how much costs such as fuel and insurance have risen. And of course, how much of an increase voters will tolerate. Think about what this means.
It means that we have a people-controlled version of our housing situations in our cities. I'm not sure I understand the problem here. Just...
The longer you stay in your apartment, the more you benefit from below-market rents. Or to put it another way, why would you ever leave your rent-controlled apartments? The late screenwriter Nora Ephron once noted with some satisfaction that she moved into a 5-bedroom apartment on the Upper West Side in 1980 and stayed there for 24 years, paying 1/3 the true market rent. The well-off who benefit from great rents have the resources, in part from the money they've saved on rents, to make their own improvements to their units, paint, redecorate, and so on. But what about the majority of renters who have much less money? They're not so lucky because landlords can't afford to improve or even maintain their rent-controlled apartments. Since they can't raise rents to market levels, they can only...
No, it keeps it in balance. If the profit motive keeps skyrocketing, then they will just take it and be rich and still not... Slumlords don't work this way. What? And this is perfect for at the time, the liberal audience that we're trying to reach. Because it's, rent control bad because of these things, and to keep the whole pie in the sky idea of the hand of the free market regulating itself idea.
Make a profit by keeping their costs to an absolute minimum. And there's another reason landlords have little incentive to maintain rent-controlled apartments. They have no fear that their renters will move out. And if they do, there's always a long line of people waiting to move in.
That is literally almost every housing situation, because we have homeless people, and them not having fear renters will move out. Why would they have that fear if they're getting paid more, if they're getting a bigger slice of the pie? Because they're gonna purposely make it so they don't want to. They are incentivized to basically bribe the richest people in staying then, and keeping the poors out anyway.
And consider one more unintended consequence of rent control. Why would investors build new apartments for anyone but the very wealthy in a city where rents are controlled? The answer, of course, is that they rarely do.
I do not believe that's the case. Yeah, you see, what generally happens is a cycle of having really nice apartments, and then after it's been several years, the rich move out of them, and then the middle class moves in. Then after the middle class is done with it, then the lower class moves in. It's a cycle, you see. It's like you build it for the wealthy. Like, honestly, I do think we should build, more housing for lower classes. But the reason it's done that way has nothing to do with being rent controlled. It has to do with societal norms and who gets the nicest things.
The vast majority of new residential
Fucking
construction
weirdos.
in New York is geared to the wealthy who can pay rents
Donald Trump.
above the controlled limit, or who are willing to buy their apartments outright as condos or co-ops. These expensive units are well beyond the reach of the middle class, let alone those lower on the economic stratum. In sum, rent control, 1, hurts the people it's supposed to help. 2, give landlords little incentive to improve their housing stock. 3, discourages construction of new housing for all but the rich.
So, since it's all in a nice little, point thing here for your slideshow, which honestly you could have showed me this image and it would have had the exact same effect on me at least, but hurts the people it's supposed to help. No? Gives landlords the little incentive to improve their housing stock. If by improving their stock you mean making it so richer tenants move in, and a slumlord, it's still going to be a slumlord in the end. Discourages construction of new housing for all but the rich. No, that's just a feature of capitalism.
And the voters love it. So rather than dream of the day when New York or Los Angeles and other rent-controlled cities might abandon this self-destructive urban policy, maybe we should see this as a cautionary tale that well illustrates a valuable maxim. Be wary of government programs bearing gifts, like the famous horse that destroyed.
And this is how we end up with anti-vaxxers, people. They watched this, and now they're afraid of every little thing that has the word government on it.
Destroyed an ancient city, they come with all sorts of problems. I'm Nicole Gelinas, a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute for Prager University.
Yeah. Alright. Alright, so I'm not gonna get through. I'm gonna watch some of this. I'm not gonna get through it. I am much more interested in the Obamacare website failure. I'm trying to figure out.
People, welcome to the Rubin Report. I'm the human debt ceiling, Dave Rubin. I've got Kathy Ladman and Jimmy Dore.
Wow. That is a killer's row, people. Oof. Jimmy Dore.
Hey people, welcome to the Rubin Report. I'm the human debt ceiling, Dave Rubin. I've got Kathy Ladman and Jimmy Dore.
Okay, I don't know. I should look that up. Okay. And Jimmy Dore is not unknown to me. He might get his own section on here someday. He's become very reactionary and very, let's just say, not the kind of guy I would like to have hanging around. This is obviously pre-Anti-Kasperian scandal. So.
Door with me, and we have amazing breaking news right this very second. It looks like a deal has been struck. America is not going to go into default, at least today, probably in about a month. That's going to be my general prediction. So, all right. We're alive, we're okay, here we go. An interesting poll came out by Rasmussen that half of Americans basically believe that the founding fathers would be disappointed in the way America has turned out. Let's look at some numbers. 34% of Americans believe if the
I don't give a fuck. That is a terrible question to ask. I really hope you didn't write this, Ruben. Because even for you, that's really lazy.
Back today, they'd view America as a success. That's a pretty low number. 49% say the founding fathers would view the present-day U.S. as a failure. 51% of Democrats say failure. 62% of Republicans say failure, and 17% say they aren't sure. Those numbers seem pretty legit to me. I think the founding fathers would be rolling in their graves right now if they saw what was going on. America. Are we a failure in the eyes of the founding fathers?
I mean, who knows?
Oh boy. I don't. With Ruben, I have no idea what he's referring to. Maybe that's how he hooked so many people. He has so much vagueness in his statements. I don't know what he means. That's insane.
Look at what they had. I mean, they didn't have plumbing. I mean,
so plumbing, they'd feel
good. The plumbing is good.
Yeah.
But some of the other stuff really sucks.
Yeah.
Jefferson was a good shitter, from what I understand.
He was?
Yeah.
Is that documented?
That's just what I've understand. Yeah.
But he had people that were taking it out.
Yeah,
now
he
we
had.
have a system
From the chamber
of
pot.
tubes.
From
Yes.
the chamber pot.
He had a seat warmer
Who needs
boy.
that?
He had,
Yeah.
he had that going on.
Who needs that? I can't. I need a door closed and a fan on.
Me, I need 2 doors closed. My.
Oh, why are we talking about
Wow,
this?
we're
Okay. So Ruben has always... Okay. So Ruben is cringe. This is what I can tell. I'm gonna go straight to the other video because I can't stand Ruben be cringe for 40 minutes. I can only do this in bite size. What's the failure? Obamacare? Okay, let's go.
We're going to start with Obamacare because everybody's freaking out. They should have used Squarespace, which is what I told them in the first place. The website is not working, and just to catch you up real quick, the government's back to work, or whatever it is that they do. Remember, they shut down for about 3 weeks because the House GOP didn't really want poor people to have health insurance because that would destroy freedom, the way I understand it. And now people are freaking.
Wow, that's a take he would walk back in a couple of years.
Because the website is not working out. And Kathleen Sebelius, who is the Health and Human Services director, she was on CNN with Sanjay Gupta last night explaining some of the problems. Let's take a look.
He did say that he was angry about this. I mean, do you know when he first knew that there was a problem?
Well, I think it became clear fairly early on, the first couple of days, that...
So not before that, though? Not before
No,
October 1st? There was no concern at that point, either in the White House or at HHS?
I think that we talked about having testing going forward, and if we had an ideal situation and could have built a product in a 5-year period of time, we probably would have taken 5 years, but we didn't have 5 years, and certainly Americans who rely on health coverage didn't have 5 years for us to wait. We wanted to make sure we made good on this final implementation of the law. And again, people can sign up. Call center is open for business. We've had 1,100,000 calls. We've had 19 million people visit the website.
Boy, this feels like a century ago.
People are shopping every day, so people are signing up. And there's help in neighborhoods around the country that people
Like,
can
seriously,
have
this feels like a
one-on-one
century
visit
ago.
with a trained navigator and figure out how to sign up. So people are able to sign up.
Where did the
All right, so there's a
time
lot
go?
of just typical PR BS there. I mean, she's just giving you answers.
Oh,
Kinda maybe
that's Rich Rubin. That's typical BS.
be true. I thought the one thing that was really interesting, she said 1.1 million calls to the center, 19 million visits to the website, 500,000 accounts created, as if that was good. Does that seem like a lot? If 19 million people, you guys are web people, if 19 million people went there, did only 500,000 mean to subscribe? I mean, doesn't that show that something's not working?
That's a horribly low number. I think that the government must abide by Facebook's internal motto that done is better than perfect. Clearly, clearly they were happy with the website.
But it's a
when they
hard
launched it.
site to put together too. I mean, this is a big project that we're taking on. So we have to give a little bit of credit and say a little wiggle room in that thing to be able to just launch it right away.
Absolutely, I'm willing to go with the wiggle room
Okay,
thing. And, well, because the next thing that she said was that we're going to bring in our A team to fix this. So who did they bring in to start this? Again, I got two web tech-savvy technological people here. Who do you think they brought in the first place to get this thing? Yeah.
The D
Where
team.
was Mr. T?
Why wasn't the A team coming in at the first
I-
place? I think
Right.
that's a great question. Now bring them in now, but so we'll see. It's the geniuses coming.
All this is doing is reminding me of why I only really watched Anna Kasparian and Zhenk videos, mostly. Oh, and when Sam Cedar was on there. Other than that, holy shitballs, this is bad comedy. Like a bad news comedy. Like, I don't know if Rubin makes them worse, or if this is just, or if he doesn't know how to spin things. Like he can't deliver the news with intensity, which would help. He can't make jokes, which would help. It's just stiffness.
Coming in now.
Yeah, apparently, like what I gleaned from that is that they've been using the same sort of technology company.
Which, I mean, if you were in the Skeptosphere and watching a lot of TYT at the time, I can guarantee this guy being so innocuous and then slowly changing more and more and more would be way easier to get behind that slow change.
Contractors for a really long time, and they've gotten sort of lazy in their ability to code or something like that. They just haven't stayed up to date on current technologies, which is kind of, awful. If you think
The
about it.
same contractors from like 1992 are still building all the sites.
I'm pretty sure they're using dial-up to get this thing
they
going.
are,
I mean, it's pretty awful.
That
What do you guys make of this
terrible
thing about
joke.
where she said, if we had 5 years to do this, it would have been a lot better. But people need health insurance now. I mean, they had at least a year. Really, how long does it take? I'm willing to grant them that this is a big project, but how long does it take to get a website up and running?
And I think it is a big project, but let's be honest too, it is just sort of a sign up.
A lot.
The end. So I do want to give everybody sort of the benefit of the doubt, but it is kind of even if you just redirected them to another site and then collected that little piece of information.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, it's.
I mean, Riot could have built the technology for them.
We should have, and it would be a good contract.
Yeah,
I
how
think
many
that we
how
should-
many web people do you have? I
I've
mean,
got
why-
one genius.
Yeah.
And I think he could have done it, but I need him, so don't
Oh,
try
you
to
can't.
take him.
Oh,
Wait, these guys work for Riot, as in Riot Games, maybe? Because if it is, then We have scumbags ahoy for matey for everybody here.
Here's the 18.
The
Yeah.
government could pull like an eminent domain thing and,
Right.
and
and
steal
take
it from you.
That's a good point. Don't tell them that.
Yeah, but I mean, really though, we're joking about it. But I mean, if you think about it, there are porn sites that are streaming video all day long, literally millions and millions of videos all day long, and they don't crash. So isn't this like the worst thing that could have happened?
Porn wouldn't have been like the big thing there that would be causing that bottleneck.
Happened to Obama that something that his whole signature policy is proving to just unravel right in front of us.
Yeah,
you know?
it's genius that you bring that up. I mean, porn has always typically pushed the envelope forward technologically
Yeah.
speaking. So it's
No,
funny.
that is true.
That would be funny if all
Yeah.
the porn sites crash now because all the tech guys.
Yeah,
They're
the
just
people
making
behind
calls to the
Pornhub.
valley
Yeah,
right now.
Exactly.
Send us your
The
18.
people behind Pornhub.
Yeah.
How do you know Pornhub?
I've read about it
Okay, good.
in the Atlantic.
Pornhub, and that's .com.
.com, yeah.
Never crashes.
Yeah.
Never.
What do you guys think about this idea where she said that
That's
it's
not
now
true.
come out that they knew for days that this thing was crashing, but that nobody told Obama. She said in that clip that we just saw, nobody told him for a couple days that this was happening. Do you think they purposely don't tell him anything? Because I feel like this has been sort of a consistent thing. So he can be like, well, I didn't know, so it's not my fault. So
I mean, he could just fucking lie. He could have just fucking lied. I don't think there's a reason to maintain that, I guess. Maintain that kind of, I don't know, lack of transparency. That's just weird to me.
I feel like it's sort of like an Independence Day. Remember when they didn't tell the president, Bill Pullman, about the aliens because it was plausible deniability? I feel like they do a lot of that with Obama.
Whose job would it be to tell him though? Because nobody wants. Maybe they just said, "Who wants to go tell the president?" Nobody,
And nobody raised their hand.
'Cause nobody does.
Okay, I find it interesting that while there is a lot to skewer Obama on, a lot, like I could do that. It's interesting to me that the progressive network that Rubin was a part of pretty much seems to exclusively skewer the moderate left. It's interesting. I haven't seen him. I've watched a few videos. I fast forwarded a year for this. He seems to mostly take the moderate left to task over the right, which should have been an early indicator, at least in my opinion, that he was going to shift all of his narratives over.
I just want to make that call. Go down to the office, knock on the door, and say, the website's not working.
Right, but
This is a-
shouldn't that guy at least be fired? The guy that's supposed to tell him. Like how does that stuff not get to the top?
Well, I mean, this is one of the great initiatives of his campaign.
Yeah.
So like you'd think that he would be a beta tester, President Obama, right?
At
Like,
least.
right?
Yeah. But no beta testing. They didn't even get that far.
I know.
All right, but so last question on this: how much of a big deal should we make this? I mean, this thing. Look, this is going to change the way America is for the near future and probably for the long-term future. So should we grant them just a couple weeks of website screwiness, or is this really a precursor to how the whole program?
I mean, for me, I think it's such an exciting thing that there's going to be a lot of Americans who had never had healthcare before. So for me, it's like I don't want it to overshadow the fact that this is a really great moment in our history where people who had never been covered before are about to get covered. So I'm going to give it some time.
I mean, is this before all the repeal shit? That's what I'd like to know.
I think that the detractors certainly wanted something like this to happen because it's easy for them to say, look, we told you it doesn't work. But websites crash all the time. My website crashes when we get insane amounts of traffic. When we're doing this, probably it's going to crash as well.
We're going to crash YouTube right now.
Yeah. So I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt. That's my take.
Yeah, I agree with Bryn. I think that uninsured Americans have waited long enough for it. I think that for them to work out the kinks, it'll be worth the wait.
Yeah. All right, and final thought on this. The shutdown apparently cost $24 billion to our economy, so maybe we could have used a little bit of that money for better web programs. Hey guys, don't forget the Rubin Report's brought to you by Coupaw.com. They've got up to 75% off pet treats, toys, and more. And
God, he's just so annoying. Just the worst. of everything is him. All times. No exceptions. But that's gonna do it for today. I just wanted to go through a couple more videos. Maybe I'll try and come up with other people. You know. See who else has shifted their narrative over the years from what once could be considered reasonable.